It's October 7, 2019, and this is Globespan 24x7 News. Good evening, and thanks for joining us. My name is Samuel Sugnadan, coming to you live from Georgetown, Guyana. Here are the major headlines for today. Family homeless after fire destroys North Sophia home. Young mother shot in the back as she slept with her baby. 3,500 plus sugar workers petition president for pay rise. Over $27 million in damages to rice crops after springtide floods. And land rights among focus for 13th annual MTC conference. Over to you, Whitney.
Thank you, Samuel. And now for the major headlines in the region and around the world. Good evening. EEPG submits impact assessment document in event of oil spills in Guyana. Dominica and Barbados reinstates visa policy for Haitian nationals. Judge orders President Trump to hand over 8 years of taxes. These stories and more in a short while. Here's Kingsley Brown with sport headlines for today.
Thanks, Whitney. Here's a look at what's happening in the sporting arena. The Knight Riders secure a semi-final spot with a win over the Patriots. And we tell you now that the Guyana Amazon Warriors cruise to the finals with an 11th straight win. And internationally, U.S. women lead gold rush on the final day of the World Athletics Championship. These stories and more as the news continue. Back to you, Samuel.
Thanks, Kingsley. Now for a look at the news. 6 men are currently wanted for questioning into the drive-by shooting of Linden resident Ian Williams and injuring his girlfriend, Melita Antigua, which occurred on September 28, 2019 at Lovers Lane, South Amelia's Ward, Mackenzie, Linden. The police are asking anyone with information regarding the whereabouts of 21-year-old Martin Fraser of Lot 6 Constabulary Compound and Lot 227, South Amelia's Ward, Mackenzie, Linden, along with 23-year-old Bernard Caesar of Lot 904 South Amelia Wards, Linden, 25-year-old Richard Caesar of Lot 904 South Amelia's Ward, Linden, 32-year-old Randy Billy called Mac T of South Amelia's Ward, Linden, 31-year-old Sherwin Benjamin of Lot 232 South Amelia's Ward, Linden, and 28-year-old Denzel Grant called Mub or Plumbers of 232 South Amelia's Ward, Linden. Anyone with information should contact the police on telephone numbers 444-3406, 444-3297, 911 or the nearest police station. A fire of unknown origin earlier today destroyed a 2-story house at North Sophia, Greater Georgetown, leaving a family of 5 homeless. We find out more in this report.
Based on reports received, the Lot 135 RR North Sophia home was occupied by a middle-aged couple, Umawati Premraj, known as Chinese, her husband who is differently abled, along with her daughter, son-in-law, and a grandchild. According to Premraj, she and her granddaughter were in the upper flat of the house when someone alerted her to smoke emanating from the roof sometime around 12:30 hours today.
And I come with this child and I check if she get a note and I read in the note. And a neighbor's son called and asked if I cooking upstairs and I said no. He said your kitchen there on fire. And after they said the kitchen there on fire, and my husband bring out my husband because he got half a pot. And I called for a buyer and said, come buy at the house of born, bring out this man to me. And I take this child and I come out.
Premrat said she is devastated by the incident, especially since she did not manage to save anything from the home, which she worked very hard to build.
He said nothing but my husband and this child. Nothing to save. When I got kitchen upstairs, I got kitchen, bring down all my stove and fridge downstairs. Everything for me damaged.
The devastated woman said that she is not sure what may have caused the fire, but explained to Globespan 24x7 News that she does not have any electrical appliances in the area where the fire started. Premraj, who operates a small shop in the lower flat of her home, said that is her only source of income, since she does not work, nor does her husband, because one of his legs was amputated due to diabetes.
Well, that little shop is government because he don't get pension, he don't get nice, he don't get no support, so the little shop, that what is help. We pay the bill, eat from it. We don't get help, we don't get no support.
Premraj's daughter was very emotional about the incident. She said it is very hard to believe that the home she grew up in was destroyed by fire.
I live here since I was the age. I was the age of 11 years. And my mother worked so hard to build this here. And I can't see how it destroyed just like that. All your documents, transport, bank book, everything damaged. Look, my stepfather's situation, he foot cut off. He's a diabetic. Where they gonna go? Look how much years my mother living. My mother walk at BR. She walk court kid for build this here. Everything loose, everything.
No place to go, the Premraj family is seeking the public's assistance in trying to get back on their feet. Persons who would like to make a donation to the family could contact them on 592-617-5234 or 642-3858. For Globespan 24x7 News, Shakima Day.
A very sad incident there. We continue tonight's news by telling you that a 24-year-old mother of four, identified as Alicia Henry, was awakened today at around 2:20 after being struck by a bullet at her Front Road, West Rhineville, Georgetown home. At the time of the incident, the woman was reportedly sleeping with her 11-month-old baby and the father of her child, identified as Kevin Carter. The woman was reportedly rushed to the Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation, where she is reportedly listed to be in a stable condition. According to a report reaching Globespan 24x7 News, the young mother, her 11-month-old baby, and the child's father were sleeping when someone pushed their hand through a hole in the zinc fence and fired shots into the house through the walls of the wooden shack. Reports also indicate that after hearing the shots, Carter jumped out of his bed when he heard Henry crying out in pain. It was at this point that the man observed a blood-stained sheet, and he immediately checked the baby after realizing the sound he heard was that of gunshots. Up to press time, a police report was not available, but there are speculations that the shooting may be linked to another shooting that occurred on Saturday evening in Leopold Street, Georgetown. Globespan 24x7 News will provide more details in an updated report. Nearly 3,500 sugar workers engaged in the fields and factories of Albion, Blairmont, and Iflot estates on October 2, 2019, through the Ghana Agricultural and General Workers Union, GAWU, submitted a petition to President David Granger calling on him and his government to approve a pay rise to them. Through the petition, the workers have pointed out that they have been working for the same rates of pay since 2015, though the cost of living has risen significantly in the ensuing period. The nation's sugar workers noted too that their earnings have declined owing to a number of factors such as lessened crop weeks, restriction of certain benefits, the suspension of other long-standing conditions of work, among other things. The situation, the workers said, has found them and their families between a rock and a hard place. Globespan 24x7 News spoke with President of GAWU, Komal Chan, in an exclusive interview, who said that the workers did not receive any increases in 2015, 16, 17, and 18.
This year, the workers are hoping that there will be a reasonable increase. Just last week, on October the 1st, Gaisuko and the union met to consider the union claim for an increase this year. The union is seeking a 15% increase and some adjustment to some working conditions. The meeting last week was merely a non-productive exercise.
According to the GAWU head, the workers, through their petition, shared that they were of the view that the government of Ghana, as the owner of the industry, had a responsibility to ensure that they benefit from adequate compensation to maintain their standard of living, thus avoiding impoverishment.
So you're talking about the cost of living getting higher. You're talking about the workers of the sugar industry who are state employees are not receiving an increase. This is, in short, crude discrimination, that you are treating a section of the Guyanese workers in a total totally different way. In this case, not affording them an increase in pay. It has never been so before for decades. In the 80s, there were 2 years that the sugar workers did not benefited from a wage increase. But so was the case of all workers, including public servants and teachers, police, and others.
In the petition, the workers also told the president that they were an important tenant in the long-term sustainability of the sugar industry and that he should use his office to have the Guyana Sugar Corporation approve an appropriate rise in pay at their upcoming negotiations with the GAWU.
You look at the average take-home pay of sugar workers over the past 4 years, we found that they are carrying home approximately $240,000 less. Not only they are not getting an increase, there is an erosion in their pay due to shorter working week, factory breakdowns, poor production. They are not able to get adequate work through the year, as you.
At this time, the workers are eagerly looking forward to hearing from the president regarding their petition. They share that it has been a trying period for them and their families, and an improvement in pay will really go a long way in easing the burdens and difficulties they face nowadays. The GAWU is also hopeful that the president will consider the workers' cries, knowing that they are supportive voices in the industry who have advocated that the workers be awarded an improvement in their pay. Meanwhile, the 13th National Tushao Council Conference was convened earlier today at the Ottachang Convention Center at Linden with one of the main items on the agenda to be addressed is land rights of the indigenous people. Shakimade was there and filed this report.
In his welcoming remarks at the 13th National Tushao Council Conference earlier this morning, Chairman of the NTC Nicholas Frederick stressed that, despite the Council making great strides over the past years, more needs to be done as it relates to land rights.
And we expect more, especially one that is very important to us, which is our rights to our lands. Without our lands, the indigenous people will not be able to sustainably develop themselves.
Recently, the opposition People's Progressive Party in a release blatantly accused the current government of reversing the land rights of the indigenous people. The statement said, open quote, "We in the PPPC recognize that the most precious asset for the First Peoples is the protection of their lands from encroachment. Land represents their relationship with their environment and ability to survive and prosper," end quote. In fact, all land titles held by the Amerindian communities were issued by the PPPC government. Not one land title or extension of land titles have been granted since the APNU-AFC coalition took office in May 2015.
Give us our lands, give us that full ownership to our lands, and we will contribute hugely to national development, but also to the protection of nature, not only for Guyana, but for the world at large.
According to the chairman, every Tushao has equal responsibility to ensure the development of the indigenous people they serve. Meanwhile, Minister within the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs, Valerie Lowe, in her remarks noted that the conference is important as it allows the leaders of the First People of Guyana to make representation of their people each year. She stressed that the burning issues are highlighted and solutions are put forward to ensure development of Guyana's hinterland communities.
Leaders, this is where you and your government get to plan and work together to achieve your dreams for our brothers and sisters in the hinterland. So this gathering of Tushaos is most important. Most important to the women and children waiting for you to return to your villages. Most important to the youth of the villages. And most important to the men of the villages. Your time here is precious, indeed. So from today and the next 4 days, while you meet old friends and bond with new ones, Let us use this forum wisely.
The feature address was made by President David Granger, who noted that the coalition government has made strides to improve the livelihoods of Guyana's First People. According to the president, Guyana is moving towards becoming an inclusive society and highlighted some of the projects completed since they took office.
My friend, internal human development has improved appreciably over the past 4 years. Indigenous people are enjoying better access to public education, public health, public information, public infrastructure, public security, public telecommunications, and social security.
Indigenous Peoples Affairs Minister Sidney Alicock mirrored the statements made by the head of state. He further added that government is committed to ensure that the land rights of the indigenous peoples are protected. The conference is being held under the theme Guyana's First Peoples United in the Promotion of the Green Economy through the preservation of our languages, land and rights. For Globespan 24x7 News, Shikima Day.
Thanks, Shakima. The largest faction of the coalition government, the People's National Congress Reform, on Saturday celebrated the party's 62nd year of existence with a packed day of activities. Linden came alive on Saturday afternoon as the motorcade which departed the Square of the Revolution entered the mining town, one of the party's strongholds. In his address to those gathered, President David Granger, who is also the party's leader, boasted of the achievements the party has made to Guyanese in and out of office. He said the focus now is to ensure that future Guyanese have an inheritance to be proud of.
We need to make sure that the next generation is educated so that they could take control of this beautiful country. These towns, this environment, this economy, petroleum production, all of these things we are doing are for the children. We are only the trustees of this environment. We are only the trustees of the petroleum industry. We are only the trustees of this great country that we have inherited. We have to prepare to pass it on to our children.
The head of state said that for this very reason, his government has invested so much money into the education sector. He said the task is not easy given the ever-changing landscape of the world, but it is the duty of the government to prepare the future generations.
We will make sure that the education budget continues to grow. Not a single Guyanese child must be left out of nursery or primary or secondary school. And I've said over and over again over the last few months that when oil starts to flow and profits are yielded, the profits will go into the sovereign wealth fund, and as far as we are able, every single Guyanese child will be entitled to free education, nursery, primary, secondary, and university.
The president told the residents that the region is high on government's agenda, especially given the announced decade of development which begins in 2020. This plan also encompasses the party's intention to address housing woes if successful at the next general elections.
Moreover, we are redressing the abuses of disenfranchisement and discrimination, especially in the allocation of house lots, by prioritizing low-income workers. The allocation of house lots is not for big shots, it's for low-income workers. And this year, we are going to create 10,000 new housing units for working-class people.
President Granger concluded that all sectors of the Guyanese society that need betterment will get the due attention during the decade of development. He maintained, however, this will only be possible with the correct choice for government. Remember to like our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel for the latest news in Guyana, the Caribbean, and around the world. Join us after these messages for more news with Shakima Day.
Travelspan is a proud sponsor of Globespan 24x7 News. Travelspan has some cheap fares to Guyana on American Airlines flights. Fly from January for $234 one-way and $512 round-trip. Take advantage of these cheap fares on American non-stop flights from JFK to Guyana. That's non-stop flights from JFK to Guyana starting as low as $234 one-way and $512 round-trip. And also has the cheapest fares for Christmas that starts as low as $7.99 round-trip. Travelspan celebrating 25 years in business with over 10 offices to serve you. Call 718-845-0437. That's 718-845-0437. Or book online at travelspan.com. Book early and save.
To keep up with breaking news in Guyana, the rest of the Caribbean, and on the international scene, like, follow, and subscribe to Globespan 24x7's Facebook and YouTube news page. Join the conversation, get live news on the go, and news and details right here on Globespan 24x7 News.
Welcome back and thanks for staying tuned. Now for more news. The drivers of motorcar PVV 4886 and PMM 4818 were earlier today arrested by police officers in connection with the fatal accident that left one person dead. The accident occurred sometime around 12:30 hours this morning on the Decantrin Public Road, West Coast, Demerara. The dead man has been identified as 25-year-old Leroy Cummings of Lot 125 Tushenhausen Scheme, East Bank, Essequibo. According to a police report, he was reportedly one of 3 occupants of motorcar PVV 4886 that turned turtle and crashed into a western fence on the public road whilst negotiating a turn. The report said that the 2 drivers in custody were reportedly racing westward along the southern carriageway of the public road. They were both found to be above the prescribed alcohol limit. The driver and occupants of the total car were rushed to the Lenora Cottage Hospital, while Cummings was taken to the West Demerara Regional Hospital, where he was pronounced dead on arrival. The other injured persons were treated and sent away. Investigations are ongoing. Meanwhile, former Attorney General Anil Nandlal reiterated the opposition People's Progressive Party's position that they will not be returning to Parliament to offer a life extension to the coalition government. Speaking to Globespan 24x7 News via a Skype interview today, Nandlal stressed that it is useless to return to Parliament when there is no legal Parliament to return to.
The life of the Parliament expired at the time when the life of the government expired. You would recall that the Constitution says very clearly that upon the successful passage of a no confidence motion, the government stands defeated, but though defeated, shall remain in government, in office, and elections must be held within 3 months and must remain in office to the end of that 3 months period, unless there is an extension, of course, granted by a 2/3 vote in the National Assembly. There was no such extension granted, and therefore within 3 months, the life of the government came to an end.
Nandlal's comment came after the current Attorney General Basil Williams announced at a recently held PNCR press conference that if the PPPC does not return to Parliament, it will result in a crisis situation.
Since the 3 months would have been eclipsed, whilst the matters were proceeding through the courts, that 3 months would have gone. So the recourse now is to have an extension for a longer period under 106.7. And of course, you know, the leader of the opposition has been saying that he's not interested, etc. But of course, he's free to say whatever he likes in George Street or on the streets of Georgetown or on the streets of Guyana. So the test is when Parliament is resumed and the matter is called, he must go there and say he's not conforming with the, complying with the Constitution. Once he does that, obviously it would create a situation of conflict, I would say, a crisis situation, which would impel the doctrine of necessity, and of course.
According to the former AG, the coalition government must accept full responsibility for the position they are currently in. He stressed that the government ignored the many calls for Parliament to be dissolved and protest actions, but now wants to lean on their only option for an extension.
Even if the opposition would like to go back to parliament, it would be complicit in a constitutional violation. And the government must accept responsibility for this constitutional tragedy, because the government was the architect, despite the pleas of the PPP, despite protest actions, despite we trying to go to court, despite calls from the private sector, calls from the international community. They ignored it. They never even attempted to get the opposition into negotiations so as to arrive at some common ground that would have returned us to parliament within the prescribed time.
The coalition government, despite naming a date for elections, has repeatedly called on the opposition to return to parliament to offer them an extension. Most of those calls went unanswered. The opposition remains adamant that they will not return to parliament, remaining firm that they will not succumb to the blackmailing tactics of the government.
The patient is now dead. Only God can give it life. Parliament is now dead. The opposition can't go back and give it life.
In other news, following the recent flooding as a result of spring tides, several farmers in the flood-hit communities are still waiting for things to return to normalcy. Globespan 24x7 News caught up with General Secretary of the Rice Producers Association, the Ramkumar Siraj, who detailed the actual condition on the ground and said what is being done to remedy any affection to the rice crops. Details in this report with Kingsley Bryan.
In an exclusive interview with this newscast, General Secretary of the Ghana Rice Producers Association, the Ramkumar Siraj, said the recent flooding brought on as a result of the spring tide resulted in damages to a number of farmers in the affected areas. Siraj recently returned from a visit to the areas where he observed that the damages can easily be placed in the millions.
Well, the most seriously affected region is region number 5. In particular, the area between the right bank of the Mahaika River to the left bank of the Maikoni River. This is sort of a catchment area because these two rivers would have isolated the floodwaters from going either east or west, and hence that catchment area was severely affected. Loss in rice is approximately 300 acres. That will amount to, if you use like an average of 30 bags per acre at the going price of about $3,000 per bag, you're talking there about $27 million in loss directly to rice itself. Outside of that, homesteads have been affected between the Dehoop Fairfield area. That's Dehoop on the western side going up to Fairfield on the eastern side of the area where the breach occurred in the Columbia area. And you'll have residences affected and people would have lost appliances, especially on the ground floor.
Siraj highlighted that there were other issues that compounded the severity of the situation.
What compounded the problem is the failure, I think, by MMA to monitor the situation and to be proactive. This forced residents and farmers to take matters into their own hands, and in a number of cases you have had what I will term vandalism of the infrastructure, where people who are affected, basically they cut the dams to relieve the water from that area, and this was not done in a planned way, and what resulted is that the salt water spread in other areas. That is correct. So instead of containment, you have a spreading of the water. And
he added that the situation is not yet contained, but one boon is the break in the spring tide. Siraj further noted that while the amount of acres that were damaged as a result of the flooding on the largest scale appears small, there are more far-reaching effects.
Normally, flooded conditions by fresh water is not a problem. But you're talking here salt water. So in effect, you'll have about between 24 to 36 months effect on the arable land itself. So it will take that amount of time, quite a long time. You know, you're talking about about 4 to 5 crops, effectively, that people will not be able to cultivate. And if some farmers do try, you'll have limited productivity, because of the effect of the salt water on the land itself. So it's out. It's not a situation that you can get rid of the water within a week, and then 2 weeks down the road you can start cultivation. That's not going to happen.
The RPA General Secretary said that Guyana will be celebrating over a century being a rice-producing nation. And while fluctuations are bound to happen, there are a few things to be done to ensure the sustainability of the rice industry, given its importance to the economy.
And the infrastructure that we have in place is built on solid foundation. And no matter what happens, rice will always be a part of what Guyana is. My prognosis is that given proper support, the rice sector, the agricultural sector of this country can only get bigger and better. But if it is not giving the proper support, you'll have a contraction, and that contraction has started already. Right? You'll have a contraction, but we will always be in agriculture. And that is why we need to manage the sector properly. Like every other sector in the world, it is a sector that needs support. It doesn't need taxes to grow. It needs incentives to grow.
Apart from the damage to rice, CRAM concluded that considerable damage was also witnessed to homesteads and livestock. For Globespan 24x7 News, this is Kingsley Bryan.
Norman Garvey, called Alfie of African descent, last known address is said to be Lot 71 Norton Street Lodge. Anyone with information that may lead to the address of Alfie Norman Garvey is asked to contact the police on telephone numbers 226-1389 or 227-1149-911 or the nearest police station. You'll hear now that President David Granger on Saturday commissioned the Linden Broadcasting Network, the first ever for the region, in a simple yet significant ceremony. The president, who delivered the feature address at the event, said that while the journey was a long one, it has been worthwhile.
Great day for Guyana. We took a bit of time getting here, but we realized the importance of public communication. And this station is an important forward step in improving the level of communication in Guyana. Non-Guyanese don't understand the complexity of our country, a country that is bigger than England and Scotland combined. A country that has a population density of only 4 persons per square kilometer, compared with 660 persons per square kilometer in Barbados. So the problems of communication are much more intense in Guyana, and we have launched what is now called the Regional Public Broadcasting Service. And the intention is that every capital tongue in Guyana should have its own broadcasting station and broadcasting network, so it can communicate, most important, with the residents of the region, but also with other regions and to the wider world.
We apologize for that break in communication. Let me start over again. President David Granger on Saturday commissioned the Linden Broadcasting Network, the first ever for the region, in a simple yet significant ceremony. The president, who delivered the feature address at the event, said that while the journey was a long one, it has been worthwhile.
Great day for Guyana. We took a bit of time getting here, but we realized the importance of public communication. And this station is an important forward step in improving the level of communication in Guyana.
The head of state stressed that communication in these developing times is crucial and must never be understated, especially when one looks at the geography and demography of Guyana.
Non-Guyanese don't understand the complexity of our country, a country that is bigger than England and Scotland combined, a country that has a population density of only 4 persons per square kilometer, compared with 660 persons per square meter in Barbados. So the problems of communication are much more intense in Guyana, and we have launched what is now called the Regional Public Broadcasting Service. And the intention is that every tongue, every capital tongue in Guyana should have its own broadcasting station and broadcasting network, so it can communicate, most important, with the residents of the region, but also with other regions and to the wider world.
As such, the president congratulated the initiative and said the aim is to maintain a truly informed Guyanese population, albeit on these shores or in the diaspora. President Granger concluded that the project will display the true Guyana as well. Meanwhile, Director General of the Ministry of the Presidency, Joseph Harmon, in his address noted that government's investment in the project is to ensure that the network attains world-class rating. Harmon added that it allows for the residents of Linden, which stands at the center of the national development, to be put on display.
I do believe that the people of Linden are in the center of the development of this country. And so it is important that we create a platform for that message that will emanate from the center to go to every other part of Guyana. Later on today, I'm sure we will be looking at some of the talent that's here in Linden. And when you actually look at some of the talent, the culture, the young people and the things that they do here, it is important that they share that culture, that talent with the rest of Guyana and the rest of the world. I believe that the LBN here, positioned as it is, will be in a great position to be able to do that.
After a long wait of 7 years for a television station license for the network, the Guyana National Broadcasting Authority on March 1, 2019, presented the letter of approval to the Secretary of the Trust Company of the station. Since assuming office in 2015, the coalition government has commissioned several radio stations across the country in their quest to bridge the information gap between the coast and the hinterland. We will now take a short commercial break. Do stay tuned for regional, international, and diaspora news with Whitney Prasad at our New York studio.
Globespan GT is a proud sponsor of Globespan 24x7 News. Here are some exciting news from Globespan GT. Fares have dropped for next year, starting January 20 to August. American Airlines has cheap fares on non-stop flights to New York. Flights are as low as $306 one way and $540 round trip, all tax included. Take advantage of these cheap fares on American Airlines non-stop flights to New York. Globespan has also cheap fares to Miami, Toronto, Canada, and the Caribbean. Call Globespan GT in Georgetown at 227-1701, that's 227-1701, or in Rose Hall call 337-4298, and New Amsterdam at 333-6230. That call Globespan GT in Georgetown at 227-1701, that's 227-1701, or in Rose Hall call 337-4287, and in New Amsterdam at 333-6230.
Thanks for staying tuned, and now for a look at regional and international news for today. With Guyana's oil production on the rise, the risk of environmental disasters is now being carefully looked at, as had previously warned by economists. On this note, ExxonMobil and its partners recently submitted an environmental impact assessment, EIA, in case there is a spill as it relates to the developing oil-rich Payara field in the Stabroek block. The ExxonMobil subsidiary Esso Exploration and Production Guyana Limited Impact Assessment document explains how the proposed operations could affect the marine life, ecosystems, and communities that surround it, if at all. The EEPG said that while it would be taking all precautions, there is a possibility for an oil spill to occur. If for any reason a spill should occur, it could affect many of Guyana's neighbors, including Trinidad and Tobago, the Southern Lesser Antilles and the Greater Antilles, and other surrounding islands. According to the EIA, an unmitigated oil spill from a loss of well control could take a west-northwesterly route through the Gulf of Paria and across the southern edge of the Caribbean Sea. At least 2 members of the Caribbean community CARICOM have reintroduced visa requirements for Haitian nationals. According to reports from various Caribbean news sites, the Barbadian and Dominican governments have reintroduced visa requirements for Haitian nationals entering the country. While the restriction applies to holders of ordinary passports, they do not apply to those Haitian nationals who are holders of diplomatic or official passports, who are business persons, or those who are holders of U.S., UK, Canadian visas. Consumers are being warned by Trinidad and Tobago's Agriculture Minister, Clarence Rambarat, to exercise caution when purchasing their meats, as they could be possibly buying decaying carcasses from Venezuela that, when consumed, could result in illnesses or even death. He issued a warning on his Facebook page yesterday after law enforcement officers seized a significant amount of wild meat carcasses, most likely from South America, destined for sale to unsuspecting consumers locally. 3 Trinidad and Tobago nationals were arrested after the dead animals were found in their possession, and charges against them were being laid yesterday. And now for a look at what's happening on the international scene. A judge has ordered U.S. President Donald Trump to hand over 8 years of his tax returns to New York investigators. The judge rejected arguments by the president's lawyer that Mr. Trump enjoyed total immunity while in office. The ruling helps an investigation into hush money paid to 2 women who claimed they had affairs with Mr. Trump. Prosecutors said in a court filing that every U.S. president since Jimmy Carter had voluntarily released his tax returns before or upon taking office. In his 75-page decision on Monday, Judge Victor Marrero called the president's claim of immunity repugnant to the nation's governmental structure and constitutional values, writing that he would not allow a categorical and limitless assertion of presidential immunity for judicial processes. And the United Kingdom's Prime Minister has urged the U.S. to reconsider giving a diplomat's wife immunity after she left the UK despite being a suspect in a fatal crash. Annie Skoulas is wanted by police over the death of motorcyclist Harry Dunn, 19. On August 27, the U.S. State Department said diplomatic immunity was rarely waived. Boris Johnson said the UK would speak to the U.S. ambassador and, quote, "If we can resolve it, then I will be raising it myself with the White House." UK Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab, who already urged the U.S. Embassy to reconsider, raised Mr. Dunn's case in a conversation with U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. And several senior Taliban members have been released in exchange for 3 kidnapped Indian engineers. The 11 Taliban reported freed include a member of the militant Haqqid group. The Indians released on Sunday were part of a group of 7 engineers kidnapped more than a year ago with their driver in northern Afghanistan. The news came after the Taliban were said to have met the U.S. peace envoy for the first time since talks collapsed. Zalmay Khalzadeh reportedly met senior members of the group in Pakistan last week, almost a month after President Donald Trump canceled secret plans to host a Taliban delegation in the U.S. Join us after this break for more news to come.
Globespan GT is a proud sponsor of Globespan 24x7 News. Here are some exciting news from Globespan GT. Fares have dropped for next year, starting January 20 to August. American Airlines has cheap fares on non-stop flights to New York. Flights are as low as $306 one way and $540 round trip, all tax included. Take advantage of these cheap fares on American Airlines non-stop flights to New York. Globespan has also cheap fares to Miami, Toronto, Canada, and the Caribbean. Call Globespan GT in Georgetown at 227-1701, that's 227-1701, or in Rose Hall call 337-4298, and New Amsterdam at 333-6230. That call Globespan GT in Georgetown at 227-1701, that's 227-1701,
or in Rose Hall, call 337-4287.
And in New Amsterdam at 333-6230.
Rwanda police have arrested a controversial U.S. pastor as he was about to conduct a news conference in the capital, Kigali. Evangelist Craig Scoof was arrested for holding an illegal meeting with journalists. This is according to police. He had been due to criticize the Rwandan government for shutting down his radio station and his church. The Amazing Grace radio station was banned last year after it broadcasted a sermon that described women as evil. The evangelist's church was closed in February, among hundreds of others, for failing to comply with building regulations and for noise pollution. In May, he lost an appeal against the government's media regulator, in which he tried to reopen his radio station. And Asia's market joined a global sell-off as fresh worries about trade and the world economy rattled investors. Japan's 225 index closed down 2% and Australia's ASX 200 lost 2.2%. It followed sharp falls in the US and European markets on Wednesday, with the UK's FTSE 100 index sinking 3.2%. The fall came after the release of weak US economic data and a World Trade Organization WTO ruling paving the way for $7.5 billion in US tariffs on EU goods. Analysts said these factors had sparked fears over the strength of the global economy. That has brought us to the end of regional and international news for today. Here's Kumar Doshi with Globespan 24x7's Tech News for today. I'm Whitney Broussard reporting from New York. Have a great evening and do stay tuned for more news.
Thank you, Whitney. Namaste, salam, good day, everyone. Thank you for tuning into TechBeat right here on Globespan 24x7. And I'm Kumar Doshi coming to you from India. Today we are going to talk about lithium-ion batteries and graphene batteries. A lithium-ion battery is a type of rechargeable battery that is commonly used in portable electronics like cell phones, laptops, and tablets. Lithium-ion batteries can be used and charged repeatedly. Graphene is a sheet of carbon atom bound together in a honeycomb lattice pattern. It is usually recognized as a wonder material due to the myriad of astonishing attributes it holds. It is a potent conductor of electrical and thermal energy, extremely lightweight, chemically inert and flexible with a large surface area. It is also considered eco-friendly and sustainable with unlimited possibilities for numerous applications. Unlike single-use batteries, lithium-ion battery is lightweight and has heavy energy density. Also having a long service life, the most common power source for consumer electronics is lithium-ion batteries. Lithium-ion batteries production cost is relatively low than graphene batteries. However, although it has numerous benefits, its disadvantages cannot be ignored. Due to the high capacity and large serial parallel numbers, lithium-ion batteries can cause problems concerning safety, durability, uniformity, and cost. Moreover, it can be overcharged or over-discharged, affecting the performance by time. Compared to the best lithium-ion batteries we use today, graphene battery has 5 times more energy density. In addition, after 400 charge-discharge cycles, no loss of capacity is observed. Like we discussed earlier, lithium-ion batteries may cause problems including explosions. Opposed to this fact, graphene batteries are more reliable in terms of safety. What is more, as graphene is a form of carbon which is found in nature, using it over lithium-ion is eco-friendly and low cost. Graphene batteries also charge pretty fast and discharge at a slow speed. As of now, the cost of graphene batteries is high, but as technology improves, the cost could go down and we will be more feasible. Funded by the European Union with a budget of over $1 billion, Graphene Flagship is building Europe's biggest search initiative ever. Since the future depends on sustainable and biocompatible materials, we are reliant on energy. Thus, graphene batteries seem to be the first choice in the coming years. That's all for today's Tech Beat. I'm Kumar Doshi and coming back to you in the studio from Guyana. For more news to come, Thanks you for watching. See you soon.
Thanks, Kumar. We will now take a look at our bridge reports. And we'll now shift our attention to what's happening in the world of sport with Kingsley Bryan.
Thanks, Samuel. Let's take a look at what's happening in the world of sports. We'll tell you now that the Warriors cruised to the finals with their 11th straight win. The Ghana Amazon Warriors continued their unbeaten 2019 Hero CPL campaign by crushing the Barbados Tridents to progress to the CPL final at the Brian Lara Stadium on Saturday, October 12. Brandon King helped himself to 11 sixes on his way to the highest ever Hero CPL score of 132, sending him top of this season run scoring charts with 453 runs. The Ghana Amazon Warriors got off to a flyer through a masterful partnership between King and Chandapal Hemraj. King's 29 off 22 balls and Hemraj's 19 off 14 saw them to 48 with no wickets lost in the power play. It took a sensational catch from Hayden Walsh Jr. to dismiss Hemraj off his own bowling, turning and sprinting, then diving full stretch to cling on to the ball. King reached his 50 off 36 balls right on halfway of the Warriors' innings. Shimron Etimaya disappointingly fell after being caught by Raymond Reefer at deep mid-wicket for 3. Warriors captain Shoaib Malik helped guide King to his maiden T20 100. Malik brought up his career 9,000 runs in T20 cricket with a 6, only the 4th batsman to get there in the history of this format of the game. At the other end, King continued to play the knock of the tournament, reaching his 100 with a booming 6 off Raymond Reefer. This scintillating partnership was ended on 97 by Trident's best bowler of the day, Hayden Walsh Jr., when he dismissed Malik for 32 off 19. Walsh bowled very well, but his figures were damaged when Nicholas Puram came in and hit his first 2 deliveries over the rope. The previous record score on this ground, 193 for 8, by the St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots in 2018, was surpassed on the first ball of the last over as 4 leg byes rubbed salt in the Trident's already large wounds. The highest ever CPL score of 121 by Andre Russell was then surpassed by King, who finished on a jaw-dropping 132 of 72 balls. Puran's handy cameo earned him 12 off 3. The Tridents got off to what would be a great start in any normal game in this year's CPL, but were always behind the 8 ball chasing 219. Barbados Tridents now face the Trinbago Knight Riders on Thursday, with one last shot to meet the Amazon Warriors again in the finals on Sunday. And the Ghana government is set to host a CPL watch party at the Starbrook Square. We'll tell you that the government of Guyana, via the Ministry of the Presidency, Department of Social Cohesion, Culture, Youth and Sport, will be hosting a watch party for all Guyanese who wish to come together and continue the camaraderie that dominated the Ghana National Stadium, the home games of the Hero Caribbean Premier League 2019. Come Saturday, October 12, Guyanese from all walks of life, all shades of complexion, and all political persuasions will unite in support of the unbeaten Ghana Amazon Warriors. The government has always been assiduous in pushing its social cohesion agenda. Sports, particularly cricket, usually fuel an environment of unity and pride. We want to capitalize on this CPL season and give our people a safe space to come together and support the Warriors. And that was according to Minister of Social Cohesion, Dr. George Norton. The minister, who also holds responsibility for culture, youth and sports, has assured that all measures, including that of security, will be put in place to ensure that the game is enjoyed with optimum pump and the usual exhilaration displayed by Guyanese. Hopefully in the near future, Guyana will be able to host the CPL finals. But for now, we still want to create an environment where our people can physically come together with their fellow Guyanese who will just be as ecstatic and fervent about every wicket and every boundary the Warriors make this Saturday. End of quote, Dr. Norton posited. All are invited. Admission is absolutely free and game time is 17 hours. Just walk with your patriotism and the enthusiasm of a true Guyana Amazon warrior. And still in CPL news, we'll tell you that the Knight Riders secure a semi-final spot with an emphatic win over the Patriots. Dinesh Ramdin played a remarkably patient but ultimately match-winning knock alongside Lendl Simmons, then Kieran Pollard, to take the Trinbago Knight Riders to a well-timed victory over the St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots in the Heroes CPL, booking their place in the semi-final on Thursday, October 10 at Brian Lara Cricket Stadium. Having won the toss and bowled, it was an ideal start for Kieran Pollard's TKR side. Mohamed Hafiz was well caught by a backpedaling Akil Hussain at extra cover for just 11. Having gone for just one of his first over back from injury, Sulin Narain then had Evan Lewis caught and bowled off a leading edge for 9. The Patriots were now 30 for 3 with no runs off the bat and just 2 wides off Narain's first 2 overs. Evans and Devon Thomas attempted to rebuild through scattered showers at Providence, but it was anything but easy against the supreme spin of Narain. The 50 partnership was brought up in the 14th ball of the 46th. But on the last ball of Narain's miserly spell, Thomas was given LBW for 10. Clearly suffering from pain in his finger, Narain astonishingly finished with 2 for 10 and 19 dot balls from his 4 overs. Laurie Evans reached 50 off 44 balls with a boundary off Chris Jordan in the 18th over. Jordan had Allen caught in the final over to finish with 3 for 30, and the TKR restricting the Patriots to just 125 for 7, with not 1 6 struck during the innings. Narain started off with 8 off 2 in Sheldon Cottrell's first over, but the bowler got his revenge next over, catching him a deep make-wicket off Alzari Joseph. Cottrell was soon saluted, bowling Monroe in the 3rd over for a 5th ball duck, leaving TKR at 16 for 2. A wicket maiden from Riyad Emirates to finish the power play saw Darren Bravo's tricky vigil end for 1 off 10. Cottrell again the catcher at 31 for 3. Pollard was left with plenty to do, requiring 48 off 27 balls when he entered the fray with a sore quadriceps. Once Pollard struck a 6 off his 3rd ball, Ramdin at last released the shackles too. On his 31st ball, he hit his first boundary for the night, a 6. With a 4 next ball, he was now 23 off 32 balls. This expensive Cottrell over made the equation 27 required off 18 balls. Pollard took to Braffett, smacking his compatriot over the ropes and cover driving him for 4 to win the game. It's 26 off 9 by far and away the highest strike rate of anyone in the game on Sunday. Gave his side a chance to make it to the Heroes CPL final on October 12. And internationally, the U.S. women lead gold rush on final day of the World Championships. We'll tell you that the U.S. women led its gold rush on the final day of the World Athletics Championships in Doha on Sunday, with a 4x400 relay romp and a standout victory for Nia Ali in the women's 100-meter hurdles. The successes took the U.S. to a tally of 14 gold and 29 medals in total, well clear of Kenya and Jamaica in the medals table for the 10-day championships in the Gulf state. Delilah Muhammad, who set a world record in the women's 400-meter hurdles final on Friday, ran a blistering 3rd leg of the 4x400 to win her 2nd goal of the meet, with Poland a distant 2nd and Jamaica 3rd. It also marked a 2nd goal for Allyson Felix, who competed in the preliminaries for the U.S., but did not run the final. The 33-year-old was part of the winning U.S. combination in the new 4x400 mixed relay, now has 13 World Championship golds, 2 clear of Jamaican Usain Bolt. It has been a remarkable return to the competition for Felix, who gave birth to her daughter Cameron last November, by C-section after serious complications with her pregnancy. New mother Ali also showed recent pregnancy is no bar to track and field glory, holding off compatriot and world record holder Kendra Harrison in the sprint hurdles final. Ali won in a personal best time of 12.34 seconds, then celebrated in the Khalifa Stadium with Yuri, her 13-month-old daughter, and her only child, 4-year-old Titus. The final event of the championships saw the U.S. men's quartet ease to victory in the 4x400 relay in 2 minutes, 56.69 seconds, over a clear second of Jamaica, with Belgium taking the bronze. It wrapped up the best world championships for the U.S. for 12 years, buoyed by the early sprint successes for the likes of Christian Coleman and Noah Lyles, and leaves the team in good stead ahead of next year's Tokyo Olympics. And that has brought us to the end of our sporting updates for today. Join us tomorrow as we continue to bring you more action in the sporting arena. Over to you, Samuel.
Thanks, Kingsley. And that has brought us to the end of today's news. Before you go, here's a recap of our major headlines. Family homeless after fire destroys North Sophia home. Young mother shot in the back as she slept with her baby. 3,500 plus sugar workers petitioned president for pay rise. Over $27 million in damages to rice crops after springtide floods. And land rights among focus for 13th annual NTC conference. Thanks for watching Globespan 24x7 News. On behalf of myself, Samuel Suknandan, the news and technical team in Ghana, New York, and India. Until next time, do have a pleasant rest of the evening. Goodbye for now.